Our next guest is joining us via Zoom, and we had him. We had the pleasure of having him in our studio a few years ago.
We did.
Dear John, I think was the project. Was that it? There's so many. He's got like a gazillion
and
movies and books, 26 novels altogether, and now partnering up with a friend of ours, which I'm very intrigued by.
Yes.
For a book called Remain. And we are going to welcome the one and only Mr. Nicholas Sparks to our show this morning. Hey, Nicholas, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, absolutely. Like I said, it was really cool when we had you by years ago, and you know, we were talking about your body of work, and do you ever sleep? Are you just writing constantly? It's amazing how much you crank out.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, believe it or not, I'm actually an excellent procrastinator.
Wow.
To get a novel done it takes about 6 months, but a lot of that is spent thinking, which is spent, and when I say thinking, I mean, you wander around, you walk the dog, you watch a little Netflix, you read a book, you kind of let the mind work on things subconsciously. So I think, my kids, they used to grow. I think my kids grew up wondering whether I ever worked at all, because I would work between the hours when they were at school to actually type. But then the rest of the time, I'm just hanging out all the time, coaching Little League or coaching soccer, doing whatever.
Well, you have to live life to accrue some knowledge about things that you can incorporate into these tales of fiction. We found out a long time ago that we were spending so much time together that, those moments that you pick up in life that you can talk about as content and topics for the show were eluding us. So if you don't do that, then you're just cutting it off completely.
I would agree, right?
Yeah.
You need characters to fill out a novel, and all these characters come from somewhere in my head, and a lot of them bits and pieces, different people I meet, different people I know. Same thing with certain elements of a novel, certain things that happen, right? Even in Remain, this supernatural love story, there are elements that come from my own life.
Well, let's get to that, because Night Shyamalan is a friend of the show, and we've done stuff with him, and he is, of course, a tremendous storyteller in his own right. And the mechanism by which this book/movie, soon to be movie, it came into being is you both sort of wrote projects or came up with ideas and basically pitched them to each other.
Yeah. It started as one of those Hollywood things. My people talked to his people, said, hey, let's get these two together. Let's see if they could do a project. And I've heard that dozens of times over the last 25 years. This one actually came through. I think I started hearing about it in late 2022. By March of 23, they said, hey, you're going to meet with Night in May. And the goal of that meeting was, or the plan was, we were both supposed to come up with an original story that would work as a novel and a film for my readers and his fans. And, I think also the main purpose of that meeting, to be quite frank, was to see whether or not we even wanted to work together.
You don't know.
Met each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes you meet someone, you're like, oh, this could be more trouble than it's worth. And we're both at this stage where we're old enough. We don't need to add more stress to our lives. And we certainly didn't need to work together. But we got along well. And 14 months after that, he called me, said, hey, that story that we conceived, okay, I'm going to make it my next film. And I said, okay, I guess I'll go ahead and write the novel.
I was not aware that I guess this is fairly common for things to work this way, in that it wasn't you two who had the idea. Someone, a manager, an agent, or whoever had said, what would be great is if we got these two crazy kids together.
It's actually a good idea.
Yeah, it is a great idea, but I had no idea that is how things like this come about or can come about.
Well, I can't speak to how all ideas come about, but certainly this one. And of course, it's not uncommon, right? We often hear of actors who say something like, oh, I've always wanted to work with this particular director. Mm-hmm. In fact, here's a funny story. Knight had recently finished the script. I mean, he may have been printing it out for the very first time. So this is somewhere last October or whatever. And he gets a call out of the blue from a guy named Jake Gyllenhaal, who's going to be in town. Yeah. And he says, hey, let's get together for lunch or breakfast or wherever they met, right? And he called Knight, and at that breakfast, lunch meeting, whatever it was, he said, just keep in mind, I'd really like to be in one of your projects one day. Lo and behold, Knight pulls out the script and says, well, why don't you go ahead and read this? Jake had no idea that was coming, but it's just kind of one of those things sometimes. So the point of that story is Jake wanted to work with Knight in the same way that maybe an actor wants to work with Steven Spielberg or something like that, right? Or, oh gosh, I really respect the acting ability of Robert Downey Jr. I'd love to do anything with him. I think it's common, right?
No, absolutely. Hollywood is legendary. The amount of just sort of happenstance meetings that result in projects getting done that way. Now, there is an actual confluence of events in your past. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Knight was supposed to write the script for The Notebook, correct?
Correct. He was one of the writers approached, but he couldn't do it because he was doing a project called The Sixth Sense. So he didn't have time for that. And, you know, we ended up getting another writer. And it was funny. Then years later, not knowing, you know, just being a fan of Knight's work, and I loved the film A Sixth Sense, like I'm sure pretty much everyone did. In my novel Safe Haven, my goal was I wonder if I could do something similar but different, right? You don't want to take his idea, but there's a secondary character in Safe Haven. She lives right next door to the main female character, and you know, by the end of the novel, you don't know whether that neighbor was really there or if she wasn't, or was she a ghost or just the figment of the main.
Oh, that's cool. That's great.
Yeah. And I did that as a silent wink or nod to Knight. He wasn't even aware of it, but it's like, look, that was a great movie, and let me see if I could do it in novel form. And so I did it. So that was that. So we have these weird things in the past that I just think shows that you know, we both like good stories.
Yeah. With an emotional, I mean, Knight's ability to make you cry, to be emotional and not be cheesy. And that's something we told you when you were in the studio. You have, though you're writing like quote unquote romance novels, but they can fall prey to that easily. You don't. You manage to hit the sweet spot. So you're both right in the same pocket in your various genres.
Yeah, and it's interesting. A lot of people think this is a really wild collaboration, but I think if you ask both Knight and I, we both kind of have the same things we like in a good story. Hey, you want a story that is compelling, that either captures a reader or captures a viewer, but you also want to have characters, and you want to have these characters have arcs and growths in ways that maybe surprise the reader at times. And of course, you want to have twists at the end, things that the readers don't expect, because if you don't pull off the ending of a novel or you don't pull off the ending of a film, you know, people don't have good thoughts about that novel.
It's true. It's true.
The ending is the most important thing, right? It is. If you don't have that, look, you go to the end of the Lord of the Rings, right? And so, you know, Sauron wins the whole thing, and Bilbo dies, and the world's destroyed. No, nobody's seeing that trilogy. You gotta have an ending.
Check it out. Yeah.
Nicholas, are you a baseball fan?
A bit, right? I follow the sport. You know, I'm certainly not a major fan. I don't do any of the fantasy league things.
There's a point to this question, because last night I'd never seen The Notebook before, ever, and yesterday it was available, so I started watching it yesterday afternoon, and then I put on the Phillies game last night, and I watched that, and that was just as depressing as some scenes from The Notebook. And that movie, the game ended, and it didn't end the way that I wanted it to, and so I sat there on the couch for about 10 minutes. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to finish The Notebook. So last night, I'm already upset and sad, and then I watched the end of the movie, and I just want to tell you, I know that it's been out for 21 years as a movie, and you wrote it well before that. Thank you. Your book and that movie helped me get through a very difficult time in my life last night.
Yeah, well, sorry about the Phillies there. You know, these things happen, right? It's the game of millimeters.
Well, let me ask you to that point, Nicholas, because you with all the many books you've written that have been made into films, I think you don't usually write the screenplays to your movies, correct?
No, I mean I have.
Yeah.
I wrote the last song, and I always consult on the scripts, right? I
Right.
work very closely with the producers, and when we do that, we try to find writers that pretty much get the novel, like the novel, want to capture as many elements of the novel as they can, while understanding it's an entirely different medium.
But you write cinematically, which is surprising to me because they port so well to film. And is it just because of the mechanics of actual script writing, or is it, or do you feel that you've clearly got the chops to do it? What keeps you or has kept you from doing it in more instances?
Oh, well, okay. Okay, time for the total honesty and candor moment.
Yeah.
Okay, when I write a novel, I'm the king. I'm the king. I'm the ruler. I don't have to deal with anybody.
Right.
What I say goes. An editor can say, hey, I suggest you make this change. You can say, no, I refuse to do so. And guess what? Your novel gets published. It gets marketed.
Yeah.
The same way if you'd said yes. Okay, so I'm the king. Now you go and write a screenplay. Oh my goodness. You got studio execs, you got directors, you got producers who might have different ideas. And so you just don't have the control over the project, I guess you'd say. I think it's the same reason that Knight finances his films now, right? He does that so that he can make the film that he wants.
It's very honest. Yeah.
And there it is. So, and then I don't want to work all the time, guys. I mean, if I start adding scripts and things like that while still having to do novels, I am working all the time. And there was a period in my life when I was willing to do that, right? When you're climbing up the mountain and seeing whether you can do things. But look, I'm turning 60 this year, right? My kids are grown. I don't need to what end would I write screenplays? I mean,
it's true. You got to make some time. I mean, there's as they say, there's more behind you than there is in front of you right now. So you want to get what you got coming to you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you want to enjoy life a little bit, enjoy my grandkid and my granddaughter, and see my kids whenever they can. My daughter's home from. She's on break. She's in law school at the University of Miami, so she's home for a few days. And you know what? It's been fun just hanging out with her without feeling like, man, I got to get the screenplay done and a novel.
Right.
Nicholas, I'm blown away the method of a novelist and how you guys do what you do. I can't wrap my mind around it. It's just entirely too much, and I love reading, and I'm fascinated how you come up with projects. But I'm also curious about at some point in the creation of one. If you find yourself at a standstill and you don't know where you're going to go with this, do you set that aside? Do you come back to it another time and take another swing at it later on, or wait for inspiration to happen, or are there occasions when you just completely bail on something that you put your sweat into and you just can't? You don't want to force it too hard.
Boy, what a great question. What a great question. Very intuitive of you. Thank you. It's interesting. There's two parts of writing. There's two parts. To simplify, you have to know what to write. And then once you know what you're writing, you have to know how to write it to maximize whatever you're trying to do, to keep it turning the pages, or to move or to set in motion a particular series of emotions, or to set the story in. But there are moments, even, I'm working on a novel now, and there was this moment where I didn't know what to do. I knew kind of what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what exactly to do, let alone how to write it. So for that, I just set it aside for 4 days, felt like a loser, like, I'm going to come up with it,
Imposter syndrome.
And then eventually the answer comes. So there's different ways to get through it. And I've worked all of them in the past. Sometimes I'll say, if I'm not sure what to do, I'll say, oh, I know where this chapter, this section ends. And I'll literally outline a series of events. Okay, he leaves with the slamming of the door. Oh, okay. Why did he slam the door? She said something. What happened immediately before this? They were in an argument. What happened before that? And so you work backwards to the point you're at, and sometimes you can get there.
Okay.
Other times I'll set that aside. Like, again, the novel I'm working on, I wrote through chapters 1 through 10.5, little foggy on 10.5 through 13. So I said, well, I know where it's going to be at the end of chapter 13. Don't know what to do or how to get there yet. But okay, so then I wrote chapters 14 through 22. And then by the time I got through there, now I'm like, okay, now I'm a little bit clearer on what I do from 10 to 13. Other times I'll outline for I outline Message in a Bottle very seriously. I outlined the novel I'm working on now. Other times I don't outline. So whatever works to get through. I've also been a third or halfway into a novel and thrown it away.
No kidding.
Wow.
I just don't think it's going to work at all.
Wow.
Well, it's like the classic notion of the block of granite and the artist is going to chip away. It's there.
Yeah.
The work is there.
Yeah.
You just have to get the rest of it away. I wanted to ask you, so the event, which is a meet and greet with you and Knight,
Yes.
October 13th, 7 p.m. at the Miller Theater. Tickets at ensembleartsphilly.org. Have you done a couple of these already, or is this the first?
This will be the first. I'm looking forward to that, right? I mean, I've been doing a lot of the book promotion, right, early on, and then I'll meet up with Knight and we'll do a little bit more. But these events, none of us wanted to make Knight go on a full book tour, basically, like I do. And that's okay, right? And that's okay, whatever we can get. He's a busy guy. He's editing the film now, and really, I'd rather him do that. This is his hometown, basically, or his home area, so to speak. And I'm super excited to get to meet people in Philadelphia, and really excited for them to have a chance to meet Knight if they never have, to hear about the story.
He's great. He's great at these events, and obviously you're a good public speaker, and you both, I think, draw a lot from your respective fan bases.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I thank you for that, and very kind of you. I've been doing it for 25 years, so I feel pretty comfortable. And I think I think people will enjoy hearing about the story, where it came from, having some of their questions answered, like, well, what do you do with this? What happens if you two disagreed? How did you guys solve these problems? Or, I think people will be fascinated by that.
Well, we've been so fascinated by your body of work and your method. We haven't even talked about Remain yet. So let's dive into the story of that. What can you tell us about that?
Okay, really easy. It's right there on the cover, right? In addition to my name and his name at the very bottom, it says it's a supernatural love story. And I think that pretty much sums it up. It's about a guy named Tate. He's an architect. He's in his 30s. He's lost his sister he was very close to. He's a little depressed. He's going to go to a little town in New England, build and design and build his friend's home. Okay, because he's an architect. And so that's what he starts. Moves into his place where he's going to be staying, and sure enough, things start happening and mystery begins to settle in, and
I love it.
All sorts of love story elements, supernatural elements, all sorts of things going on right up until the final pages turn.
Really, all we need is your two names. That's it. Right? That's all we need to know. But listen, so have you ever written an architect before?
No, not written an architect.
So it's got to be fun for you, for any author, I would imagine, that takes on a profession that they may not know a whole lot about. And obviously, you've got to get, the research done on finding out how to include that into this person's personality. And obviously, you're going to cover architecture in it. Is it fun for you to go and research those things that you may not know about initially?
It is, right? And it's a little surprising about architecture, right? Because I had years and years ago, I designed a home, right? And, I had architectural drawings and these types of things. Shoot, so much of it now is done on computer. It's really amazing. And it kind of took the fun out of, let's say, pen to paper and making your straight lines and doing all that.
Do you ever use a place fillers, like the line of dialogue would be, let me go get the pointy thing with the pencil attached to it, or
and then you'll figure it out later.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, every now and then, right? Oh, and but that would be funny. Sometimes it's more like I'm referencing some guy. He's a character in the novel,
right?
The main character in the novel, and he had an ex, right? It's broken up now. He's in this thing. I'll say, yeah, I remember. She'll say, how is this person doing? Referencing his ex. And man, sometimes I can't remember that name. So I literally put XXX, right?
Until you remember it.
And then at the end of the day, I'll go back and say, now, where did I reference that? Oh, it must have been somewhere around there. And then I'll say, oh, okay, that's her name.
That's great.
absolutely you'll do that.
Let me ask you, because you're so good at doing it, and I mean, I've seen people try to resist your writing and your, as far as getting into the emotion of it, and you're going to lose a battle with Nicholas Sparks when it comes to that. But what has moved you? What movies? What romantic books? Anything that involves romance has moved you? Has left you a pile of tears?
Pile of tears,
or a puddle of tears, I should say.
I'll tell you what. The biggest one, first one, was probably Old Yeller, right?
Oh, man.
Boy and his dog.
Yep.
That really hit me. And I think the last movie I cried at, believe it or not, was Toy Story 3, because it was interesting.
That's another one. Yes,
there was a very personal attachment to that. The original Toy Story was the first movie that my oldest son, Miles, was able to sit through and watch the whole movie. When they're young, they can't last the whole movie,
right,
no matter what it is. So he was 4 or 5, watched the whole thing, giggling at the end as Woody's trying to get back on the moving van and his face is flapping. I remember just hearing this joyful giggle, right? But
that's a memory. Yeah.
But by the time Toy Story 3 comes up, right, he's a young adult. He's heading off to college, and Andy's getting rid of his toys.
Yeah.
It just kind of hit me, right? Because of the reminders or the meaningful moments in my own life, I guess. And of course, I've had dogs. So those are probably the two biggest.
It's what you connect to. I'm a big fan of one of my favorite writers of all time is Richard Matheson, who Somewhere in Time. If you talk about something that's a little bit out of the realm and romance, What Dreams May Come, all of those. But these two things dovetail nicely. These sort of magical nights stuff and your realm. I think they seem to make a perfect blend. Two great things that taste great together.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Thank you. I think people will enjoy it, and I think they're going to love the movie. Right?
Yeah.
I was there on set. I saw the dailies. I wasn't there the whole time, of course. I didn't want. I can be a distraction on the set, so because I don't have a job.
Yeah.
Just sit there and eat the catering food, and everyone, and people feel like Knight feels like he might have to talk to me, but dude's trying to get the cameras right, the lighting, get the cast, do the rehearsal. So I limit my time there so he can do his job well. But of course, I've seen so many of the dailies, and the movie's going to be tremendous too.
Awesome.
Hey, when you're when the book is going to be made an audiobook, do you have a say in who the narrator is?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I do, and they always ask me, and I always say no. I got a funny story about that. I did it once for A Walk to Remember, and it was so funny. I thought I was going to go to this. I'd seen the beginning of these Pixar movies where people are in these beautiful glass-walled studios. Talking. It's not like that when you do an audiobook. I mean, they sent me to Wilmington, North Carolina, which is fine, nothing wrong, beautiful city. Mm-hmm. But I go up, I get to the building, and most of the building is abandoned. Nobody there. They sent me to the top floor. It used to be an old radio station. So there's just styrofoam all over the walls in this little tiny booth. It must have been 6 by 8. And the only things in there was a chair, a music stand, and a basket of apples.
Oh, okay.
And it was a hot summer day. It was 103 degrees, 104. I'm on the top floor. They have to turn the air conditioning off because the sound will do this. So I'm in there. I begin to sweat.
No.
But by the end of the day, I'm just sitting there in my underwear. And they make you, if you hit an S too hard, if you miss a word, you have to pick up at the paragraph and read it over again. Meanwhile, they say, oh, your voice is getting tacky. Take a bite of an apple. So I'm mowing through about 7 apples in an 8-hour day.
In your underwear.
5 degrees, sweating. I'm like, I am never reading an audio.
That seems like something Knight would write.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's funny. It was not the movie star Pixar glass studio. It wasn't even the mics you guys are. They're like, oh, you shifted in your chair.
Oh,
Please
my
pick up on that sentence.
That's horrible.
Over and over and over again.
I just read that you teamed up with Splenda, and you have some sweet sayings that are featured on the packets of Splenda packets, which I think is really cool.
That's just chicken salad recipe that I read about. What is that?
Okay, so the New York Times came to my house to take a photo of the house. It was for their home section. And she walked in and I'd made this huge double batch of chicken salad. And she asked what some of the greens were. And I said, well, there's 16 packets of Splenda in there. And of course, so that ends up in this New York Times article, which is supposed to be about my house. And people are like, oh, look, this has to be the worst tasting chicken salad of all time. My excuse for that is in the South, you use generally Duke's mayonnaise, which has no sugar added. If you're using Hellman's or Kraft, they've added sugar. So there's no sweetness in a Duke's mayonnaise, plus it was a double batch. So you got a couple of things. I can get all defensive about my chicken salad and argue with people, or we can lean the heck into it. And so we started making chicken salad on my book tour. We handed out to everybody. Next thing you know, Splenda's calling and say, hey, let's team up. They invite me as a guest at the Indianapolis 500 to be with the Splenda car. And, you know, I end up on their boxes with my chicken salad recipe. And oh, by the way, it's a pretty good recipe. If you use Duke's mayonnaise.
If you use Duke's.
You're going to use Hellman's.
Yeah.
You see, then you don't use the Splenda. It's just one or the other.
I love that. That's hilarious.
That's
I'm going to have to
wonderful.
try it.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's nice. I like mine with a little bit of texture. So there's crunchy celery in there.
Yeah.
There's crunchy onions. There's a little bit of jalapenos in there.
Oh, good call.
And so and then I try to make it easy. So it's rotisserie chickens. Look, I don't want to cook and boil. I don't want to make a big deal out of making chicken salad. So look, rotisserie chicken done. Celery's done.
There we
Onions
go.
are done.
But as for
mayonnaise done. Right?
the key for us though is obviously got to make sure your hands are clean, but you got to like shred the chicken with your hands. I don't know if you do that or not.
I got a better way, buddy.
What do you do?
I do. Here, I'll tell you. You get your rotisserie chicken and then while it's still warm, you put it into a Ziploc baggie, a big Ziploc baggie, and you massage it.
Ooh.
I'm serious. Like
it all comes off the bone.
Tissue. And all the skin and bones come out. You literally pluck all the meat right out.
So you're saying always massage your chicken before.
Deeply.
Deep,
If you're going to be having your rotisserie,
Swedish massage.
a deep sweet. If you have a recipe that's like just the chicken.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
That's a good idea.
Look, I'm telling you, it's the way to do it. I mean, I squish that thing, use the palms of my hands, and then I just reach in the bag, and the meat is there. The skin stays in the bag. The bones stay in the bag. It's great.
Honestly, when I found out we were having you on the show, the last thing on my list that I thought we would be talking about was chicken salad recipes, Nicholas. So thank you, because we never know where things are going to go on this radio program.
This is fun, right?
I love it. Okay, so October 13th at the Miller Theater, both Nicholas and Night Shyamalan are going to be doing I guess it's a meet and greet, a discussion.
Yeah,
about Remain and whatever else I would imagine you guys want to get into about the movie making and novel writing process. So it should be fascinating. Two of the absolute best here in our city to sit down and talk about it. You're such a great guy. Thank you so much for your body of work and your time to spend with us talking about this. And we just appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll get to encounter you in person. Maybe we'll see you on the 13th at the Miller Theater.
Absolutely. I'd love that. All right, guys. Thanks for having me this morning. A lot of fun.
Appreciate it. Nicholas Sparks, everyone. Take care of yourself, sir. We'll see you soon. Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating guy.